when we were last there outside the Egyptian Museum in a scene that was literally out of a war zone, burnt out APCs, Molotov cocktails raining down, and gunshots all around, have now pushed forward to the bridge and taken the 6th of October bridge. This will open, will create an opening out of the square for those demonstrators who want to leave, but the atmosphere here is very much that they're going to stick it out, and they hope that with dawn there will be reinforcements, much needed reinforcements after nearly 16 hours of fighting for the tired demonstrators inside the square.
How organized are they? How are they able to achieve this apparent game changer, as you describe it?
Organization is just it's a fascinating issue. I was speaking with one of the organizers earlier today, who told me that this is something that really couldn't have happened at any other time. And more gunshots now, more machine gunshots ringing out. Couldn't have happened at any other time before 2011. Maybe Tunisia was important and crucial as a spark, but you could have equally argued that the Mahalla riots 2 years ago could have been a spark. No, says this organizer, they weren't ready. This was the time when a process that lasted 6 years came to fruition. And this is what we've been seeing here in the square. People from all different walks of life, different specializations coming together, delegating authority, each sticking to what they're good, the doctors, the lawyers, the human rights people, the tech geeks, at least before the internet, Egypt seceded from the internet. It seems to be very much a non-Mahfouz kind of organization, but something that works. And in the defense of the square, this is something that you can see. People will organically shift from entrance to entrance. There's fluid communication as threats appear in different sides.
We have 2 minutes till the top of the hour when I'm going to recap the events that we've been seeing. Before then, I just want to ask you, you're a photojournalist. You have experience in different demonstrations around the region, including, I believe, in Tehran, when those mass demonstrations broke out after the presidential elections. What kind of images have you captured here?
Well, this has been looking a lot more like Tehran in the last 24 hours or so. It looked up until yesterday, up until President Mubarak's concession speech, that he was going to try to soft pedal this. It was going to become some kind of Lebanese waiting game, as when Hezbollah organized those months-long demonstrations to overthrow the government. But in the last 24 hours, this has changed very much. President Mubarak has offered the carrot of not standing again for further elections, and then he's followed up today with the stick of his demonstrators coming out, his supporters coming out, and demonstrators here in the square say that these are not real supporters. These are paid-up members, either civil servants or actually fully paid-up members of the state security forces, the feared Amna Dawla. And one demonstrator earlier on saying to me that these people are fighting with such passion, vigor, and dirty tricks because they know that they're really desperate. If their regime falls, if their president leaves, these people who have committed crimes, human rights abuses over the last 30 years are really in for it. So you're seeing desperation on both sides, both on the sides of the demonstrators who feel that this is a game that they cannot afford to lose. They cannot go back to the days before the 25th of January when these spontaneous demonstrations exploded, and also on the side of the supporters of Mubarak.
You're watching Al Jazeera with live and continuing coverage from Egypt, where it's reported one person has been killed as demonstrations turned violent in the last few hours. Look and listen. Live pictures, live sound from Tahrir Square, which translates as Liberation Square. We've been hearing the snap of gunfire ringing out, high-caliber gunfire, the crackle of what appears to be machine gun fire. We have had witnesses saying that they believe, they cannot confirm, but they believe that it's been coming from the side of the pro-Mubarak supporters, because this is what's been happening over the last few hours. In fact, let's recap where things stand at the moment in Egypt. We are entering day 10 of the standoff. Gunshots, as I say, have been heard in Cairo's Liberation Square in the last half hour. Unconfirmed reports say at least one person's been killed and another 7 injured. This follows a day of violence as pro-Mubarak demonstrators clashed with pro-democracy protesters in the square. The Egyptian government, meanwhile, has hardened its stand, saying there will be no dialogue with opposition groups until the standoff ends. Well, let's go straight to Cairo now and speak to our correspondent who is near Liberation Square for an update on what is happening right now. It's been so dramatic. Describe what you're seeing and hearing.
Well, maybe about a minute ago, there was another barrage of gunfire heading. I saw a couple of, again, from there. I mean, it's really impossible to say what's going on here, but we do occasionally see traces of bullets heading towards the area of the anti-government camp. There was also a white pickup van which arrived about 15 minutes ago, driving quite erratically, and a crowd of people descended upon it and pulled out the driver, opened the hood, checked the back, and they literally chased the driver away, punching him to the ground. I do get a sense, as our other correspondent was saying, that perhaps the bridge has been secured. There are a few people milling around. No more scenes of Molotov cocktails being thrown across it. I saw 2 men chanting with their arms in the air in response to the chant coming from the anti-government camp, which again was Erhan, which means leave, leave. But again, gunfire is still being heard sporadically here. It certainly doesn't seem to be secure. That tank that moved initially into the area where I believe the gunfire was coming from, it stayed there for about 10 minutes. It has now crossed the bridge, the October 6th bridge, and has positioned itself on the other side facing this way. When it moved, a lot of what seemed to be pro-Mubarak protesters ran away from it. But at the moment, again, I mean, gunfire is still ongoing. It sounds to me like it's coming from further north, from where the actual anti-government camp. Yeah, I'm not sure if you can hear that, but that is an intense barrage still ongoing. Although the people that I can see down in that beginning of the road leading to the square don't seem to be moving or, you know, hitting the ground. Oh, yeah, I just saw. People now running from the bridge. They're being shot at. It seems really difficult to confirm, but definitely we saw some bullets. The red traces in there heading in the direction of the anti-government protesters.
I'm going to keep you on the phone for a moment because, but ask you to stand by because we have another witness to what's going on. Wael Khalil is an activist close to Tahrir Square. I understand, Mr. Khalil, that you've just got off the 6th of October bridge. Our photojournalist in the square, Yason Athanaides, was just saying that protesters have pushed back the pro-Mubarak camp that had been on that bridge. What did you see?
Yes, exactly. That's the thing. I mean, the below the bridge there is the Avenue Riyadh Square, which was most of the day occupied by the attackers. Now it's all over. It's taken over by the anti-Mubarak protesters. And also the bridge was taken by the attackers, but now it's clear. I could hear gunshots, but they were from afar. I was at the edge of the square, so it was not directed at the protesters. That was maybe 10 minutes ago. And I could see people standing in the bridge, not really reacting to the gunshots. Now I hear it's still there. It's still there, the gunshot. But when I was there, my guess is that it was the army shooting or warning the retreating attackers from where we are. I mean, I'm walking back to, but I don't see any signs of panic. there. So I don't. I can see some shots fired on top of the bridge. At least it's not at people inside the square. I can assure you that it's not again inside the square.
Well, Khalil, it's quite difficult to hear you. The line is not very good. But we have heard, as you have, as we're hearing now on the phone, the heavy gunfire breaking out in Tahrir Square. And we do have a report from the AFP French news agency, the Agence France Presse, that a second person has reportedly been killed in this gunfire in the last hour or so. So that is a second person. Two people we're hearing have been killed, but there is this conflicting report that we heard from Yason Athanides, who was saying that he had heard of 6 people who've been killed. We had a very moving witness account a bit earlier from a young woman who's in the square, who said that there are many women there, that there are children who are hearing all this gunfire, who are in danger from all this gunfire. It's an incredibly tense situation. You're looking at live picture from one part of the square, and you can hear live sound as well of the gunfire. One apparent game-changing moment that we heard from Wael Khalil there and from Yason was that the anti-Mubarak protesters have taken over the 6th of October bridge, and that changes the strategic situation somewhat. I'm very conscious of speaking over this incredibly dramatic sound that we're hearing. Every single one of those shots that you're hearing, and you're hearing a continuous barrage, is potentially lethal. Going back to our correspondent on the phone near Tahrir Square, can you describe what difference it makes that the 6th of October overpass has been taken? There's that gunfire again.
Yeah, we're still hearing a sporadic barrage of that gunfire. Now what we can hear is that the anti-government protesters have resumed the kind of beating of the steel barricades, which they have been doing all night in defiance of the pro-Mubarak protesters. I guess a sign of their resolve, because they're still standing there, and there's definitely been traces of gunfire heading in their direction. I'm not sure if you can hear it. I'm just going to stop talking for a bit. It's a very slow sort of beating of these steel barricades that they've in protection of the constant barrage of Molotov cocktails and stones that they've been getting throughout the night, and allegations of gunfire as well, which at that stage we didn't know, but there is now definitely still a barrage coming from, again, what it seems like north of here, around the corner from where I am. We've seen the bullets in the sky. Some of them have ricocheted off the bridge. Some of them have headed towards the where the anti-government protesters are. That crowd has definitely lessened, I believe. It seems that some of them have retreated somewhat just to protect themselves. But the bridge from where I am definitely seems to be secure at the moment. It seems that the pro-Mubarak supporters that have been there for the last couple of hours have disappeared.
You know, earlier in the day, we had heard from government officials pleading with and indeed from the army, pleading with the anti-Mubarak camp to move away from the square, to let ordinary life go back to normal. Now, in hindsight, seeing these scenes going on, could that have been a veiled warning? Are we seeing now a forcible attempt to push them from the square?
It's very difficult to say to say what the intentions are and who is doing this. Again, what we're hearing from protesters is that they believe that these are government forces who have been sent here in a clampdown. Of course, if you look at the regime, if you look at the regime that they are so against, it has been an incredibly oppressive regime to any kind of opposition in the past. Anyone who spoke out against it would have been detained, tortured, which is why the people here are so angry. They believe they're trying to get rid of what they say is a dictator, a tyrant. So this kind of response, in speculation, is a possible response. Again, we can't say for sure what exactly is going on, but it is clear that there is a barrage of gunfire coming from a certain direction